struggling, single mom spots her first love in the airport crowd, not knowing he was a billionaire CEO, or their son's father. In the dim hum of the airport terminal, where hurried footsteps echoed like distant heartbeats, Elena clutched her 5-year-old son's hand tighter than she meant to. Alex's small fingers wriggled in protest, his wide eyes darting toward the glowing departure boards, chasing the promise of adventure in a world that had given them none. Rain lashed against the massive glass windows, turning the outside world into a watercolor blur of gray skies and streaking lights. Elena's coat, threadbare at the cuffs, hung heavy on her shoulders, soaked from the dash from the cab. She was late, always late, for the interview that could change everything. A part-time receptionist job at a downtown firm, the kind that paid just enough to keep the lights on in their cramped apartment. "Mommy, why's everyone running?" Alex whispered, his voice a soft anchor amid the chaos. She knelt, brushing a curl from his forehead, her smile fragile as cracked porcelain. "Because they're chasing dreams, baby. Just like us." But inside, Elena's chest tightened with the familiar ache. Dreams had slipped through her fingers years ago, like sand from a beach they once walked hand in hand. That's when she saw him. He stood by the coffee kiosk, tall and shadowed in a tailored wool coat that screamed quiet wealth, his back to the crowd as he stared at his phone. Something in the set of his shoulders, the subtle tilt of his head, snagged in her memory like a thorn. Elena froze, her breath catching as he turned. Dark hair, once tousled and boyish, now neatly styled with threads of silver at the temples. Eyes that had once sparkled with mischief now held the weight of storms. Damien. Her Damien. The boy who'd carved their initials into an old oak tree and whispered forever under starlit skies. He looked up, and their gazes locked across the terminal's fluorescent haze. Time fractured. The roar of announcements faded to a murmur, the rain's patter against the glass syncing with the wild thrum of her pulse. His lips parted, but no words came, only a flicker of recognition that mirrored her own shock. Elena's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. 10 years. 10 years since he'd vanished without a trace, leaving her with a broken heart and a positive pregnancy test clutched in trembling hands. Damien stepped forward, the crowd parting like mist, his polished shoes clicking softly on the tile. "Elena?" His voice was deeper now, edged with gravel, but it wrapped around her name like a forgotten lullaby. She backed away instinctively, pulling Alex behind her skirt. The boy's curious stare peered out, innocent and unscarred. You're not," Elena stammered, her voice barely above the din. Heat flushed her cheeks. Embarrassment, anger, a treacherous spark of longing, all tangled together. "It's me," he said, stopping a respectful distance away, his hands rising in surrender. The lines around his eyes crinkled, not with joy but with something raw, unguarded. "God, Elena, after all this time." Alex tugged at her leg. "Mommy, do you know the tall man? He looks sad." The words pierced her. Sad. Yes, there it was, in the slight downturn of Damien's mouth, the way his fingers clenched at his sides. But Elena's heart, scarred and wary, rebelled. How dare he stand there looking like the world had been kind while she'd scraped by on minimum wages and midnight tears? She scooped Alex into her arms, his weight a shield against the past crashing in. "We have to go," she murmured, turning toward the gate, but her feet felt leaden, rooted by the invisible thread that had never truly snapped. Damien's voice followed her, soft as the rain. "Wait, please, just 1 minute." She didn't stop, not then. But as the boarding call echoed for her flight, delayed, of course, by the storm, Elena glanced back. He hadn't moved, a solitary figure swallowed by the terminal's indifferent flow, his eyes tracing her retreat like a man watching the last light of day fade. Little did she know that chance collision wasn't fate's cruel joke. It was the beginning of unraveling secrets that would stitch their broken lives back together, or tear them apart forever. The summer of their 18th year had been woven from golden threads. Lazy afternoons by Willow Creek, where the water gurgled secrets over smooth stones, and fireflies danced like living stars in the twilight. Elena Ramirez, with her sun-kissed skin and laughter that bubbled like creek water, had been the heart of their small town. Daughter of a mechanic and a schoolteacher, she dreamed of studying art in the city, sketching portraits that captured souls in charcoal strokes. Damien Hale, lean and intense, with hands calloused from helping his father on the family farm, harbored ambitions fiercer than the summer storms. He wanted to escape the dust-choked fields, build something unbreakable, a life where poverty didn't dictate destiny. They met in the high school art room, where Elena's easel stood sentinel amid splattered palettes. Damien had wandered in, fleeing algebra's drudgery, and paused before her half-finished canvas. A stormy sea crashing against jagged cliffs. "That's not just waves," he'd said, his voice tentative, eyes alight. "That's rage. Beautiful rage." She'd turned, paint smudged on her cheek like war paint, and grinned. "And you're the first boy who's noticed." From there, it bloomed. Stolen kisses behind the bleachers, where the scent of fresh-cut grass mingled with his cologne. Cheap, but intoxicating. Picnics under the old oak, where he'd trace her palm with his thumb and murmur, "I'll take you to the city, Lena. We'll have a loft with windows that catch the sunrise." She'd lean into him, her head on his chest, listening to the steady drum of his heart. "Promise?" she'd whisper. "Cross my heart." But promises, like summer, have an end. Damien's acceptance letter arrived in autumn, crisp and official. A full scholarship to a prestigious business school in New York. His parents, drowning in medical bills from his mother's lingering illness, saw it as salvation. "This is your ticket out, son," his father had rasped, eyes hollow in the dim kitchen light. Damien packed that night, the suitcase zipper a finality that echoed in his bones. He drove to Elena's window under cover of darkness, pebbles tapping against the glass like hesitant rain. She slipped out in her nightgown, barefoot on the dew-slick grass, her hair a wild halo in the moonlight. "You're really going?" The words trembled, but her eyes held fire. He pulled her close, the chill of October nipping at their skin. "For us. I'll save every penny, come back in a year. We'll start fresh." His lips brushed her forehead, tasting salt. Tears she hadn't let fall. "I love you, Elena. More than the stars know." She clutched his shirt, knuckles white. "Then don't make me wait forever." Their goodbye kiss was a storm, fierce, desperate, laced with the metallic tang of fear. He drove away at dawn, taillights fading like dying embers, her silhouette shrinking in the rear view until it vanished. What Elena didn't know, what Damien buried deep, was the call that came 2 weeks later. His mother had passed in her sleep, the farm foreclosed overnight. Grief clawed him hollow. The scholarship demanded focus he couldn't muster. He clawed through classes on autopilot, nights blurred by cheap whiskey and textbooks. Letters to Elena went unanswered at first. Her family's number changed when her father lost his job. By the time he mustered the courage to visit, her house stood empty, sold to strangers. "Moved to the city," the new owners said, vague and unhelpful. Despair rooted him. He funneled rage into ambition, interning at a cutthroat firm, climbing ladders slick with compromise. By 25, Damien Hale was CEO of Hale Enterprises, a tech empire valued in billions, penthouses in Manhattan, boardrooms with views of steel spires, but the penthouse echoed with silence, the views mocking his solitude. Elena, meanwhile, discovered her pregnancy on a Greyhound bus to the city, the test strip's pink lines blurring through hot tears. Alone in a shelter's fluorescent glare, she named him Alex after Damien's middle name, a quiet tether to what was lost. She waitressed through swollen ankles, sketched in stolen moments, her dreams deferred like overdue bills. The city chewed her up, evictions, odd jobs, the endless grind of single motherhood. Alex became her son, chubby-cheeked with Damien's dark curls and a laugh that thawed her coldest days. But at night, when his breaths evened in sleep, Elena would trace the faded tattoo on her wrist, a tiny oak leaf, their symbol. "Wherever you are," she'd whisper to the dark, "I hope you're happy." Happiness, for her, was survival. A rundown apartment in Queens, walls thin as promises, where the neighbors' arguments seeped through like smoke. She applied for jobs relentlessly, her resume a litany of reliable and adaptable. That airport interview was her Hail Mary, a temp agency lead for a corporate gig. "You look professional," the mirror lied that morning, as she buttoned a blouse mended with safety pins. Damien, jet-lagged from Tokyo negotiations, had lingered in the terminal, scrolling emails that blurred into numbness. His life was a fortress, mergers sealed over steak dinners, philanthropy checks signed without flourish. But the fortress cracked at night, when memories of creek water and fireflies haunted his king-sized bed. Therapy sessions glossed over it. "Success is armor," his counselor said, but Damien knew better. He'd built walls to hide the boy who'd broken a vow. Fate, that capricious weaver, had tangled their threads once more. As Elena boarded her flight, Alex waving at the window seat's clouds, she pressed a hand to her chest where his gaze still burned. Damien watched the plane taxi, rain sheeting the tarmac, and made a vow to the empty air. This time, he wouldn't let go. Weeks blurred into a tentative dance, the airport encounter a spark that refused to gutter out. Elena landed the job, miracle of miracles, a receptionist at a boutique ad agency, the pay a whisper above poverty. Mornings became rituals. Packing Alex's lunch with notes shaped like hearts, kissing his forehead amid the clatter of the subway. But Damien lingered in her thoughts like a half-forgotten melody, surfacing in quiet moments, the steam from her coffee curling like his breath on her skin. He found her on LinkedIn. A profile photo of her smiling professionally, Alex cropped out. The message was simple. "Coffee? No expectations. Just to catch up." Her thumb hovered over delete, heart hammering. What harm in closure? They met at a corner cafe in Midtown, the kind with mismatched chairs and the rich aroma of roasted beans weaving through the air. Autumn leaves skittered outside, painting the sidewalk in crimson and gold. Damien arrived first, tie loosened, vulnerability etched in the faint stubble shadowing his jaw. When Elena walked in, coat dusted with city grit, he stood too quickly, chair scraping like a confession. "You came." She slid into the seat, hands clasped to steady their tremor. "Curiosity, mostly. And Alex." He asked about the sad tall man for days. His laugh was rusty, genuine. "Smart kid. Is he okay?" The question hung, weighted with unspoken histories. Elena's eyes softened, tracing the new lines on his face. Laughter? Worry? He's everything. "My anchor." She stirred her latte, foam swirling like storm clouds. "You, though, CEO of whatever empire you've built. Life treated you well." Damien's gaze dropped to his untouched espresso, the crema unbroken. Success has a way of filling rooms but emptying souls. He leaned forward, voice low. "Elena, I never stopped looking for you. After Mom, everything crumbled. I came back, but you were gone." Her spoon clattered against the porcelain. "Gone, we waited, Damien. My dad lost the house, sure, but I wrote letters, called, nothing." Hurt flared, sharp as shattered glass. "You vanished. Left me with nothing but echoes." He reached across, fingers brushing hers, electric, familiar. She didn't pull away. "I got one letter back marked undeliverable. I thought you'd moved on. Found someone who could give you the life I couldn't." His eyes, those storm-gray depths, glistened. "Forgive me for being a fool." The air thickened, charged with what-ifs. They talked for hours, her sketches gathering dust in a drawer, his boardroom battles masking loneliness. Laughter crept in, tentative, like sunlight piercing clouds. "Remember the oak tree?" he asked, a boyish grin breaking through. She nodded, throat tight. "Our initials are probably overgrown now." As they parted, rain misting the cafe windows, he pressed a card into her palm. Simple, embossed with his name. "Dinner, with Alex if you'd like." She hesitated, the card warm against her skin. Maybe, but doubt festered. That night, tucking Alex in, she confided in the dark. "What if it's all a dream, baby? What if it breaks us again? The conflict ignited subtly like embers stirred by wind. Damien courted them with quiet persistence. Playground picnics where he'd push Alex on swings, his laughter booming like thunder rolling home. Elena watched, wary as her son warmed to him, the way Damien knelt to tie shoelaces, patient as prayer. "He's like you know," she admitted one evening, as they strolled Central Park's leaf-strewn paths, Alex scampering ahead with a stick sword. That fire in his eyes. Damien stopped, turning to her, the setting sun gilding his profile. "He has your heart. Kind, unbreakable." His hand found hers, tentative. "Elena, I want to be part of this. If you'll let me." She squeezed back, the gesture a bridge over chasms. But bridges tremble. Whispers from her past surfaced. A co-worker at the agency, scrolling gossip sites, gasped over coffee. "Your mystery man, Hale? The tabloids say he's ruthless, crushed competitors, dated models like disposable trends." Elena laughed it off, but seeds of fear took root. The first twist came unannounced, a storm cell in their fragile calm. Damien invited them to his penthouse for Alex's birthday. 6 now, a milestone Elena had planned with dollar store streamers. The elevator hummed upward, Alex's eyes wide as saucers at the mirrored walls. "Mommy, are we in a castle?" The doors parted to opulence. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering skyline, leather sofas soft as whispers, a cake towering with 6 candles flickering like hopeful stars. Damien, sleeves rolled up, beamed as Alex tore into gifts, a wooden train set carved by hand, echoing their childhood games. But midway through, as laughter filled the space, Damien's phone buzzed incessantly. He silenced it, but Elena glimpsed the screen. Urgent. Board revolt. Excuses tumbled. A crisis in Tokyo. Flights grounding. "I have to go," he said, voice strained, tying his tie with mechanical precision. "I'll be back before the candles relight." Alex's face crumpled, lower lip quivering. "You promised stories, Mr. Damien." The plea hung, raw. Damien knelt, ruffling the boy's curls. "Uncle Damien's got dragons to slay, champ. But I'll bring back a real one. Toy, not scary." He kissed Elena's cheek, lingering. "This isn't goodbye, just wait for me." She nodded, but as the elevator swallowed him, the penthouse felt cavernous, echoing her old abandonment. Alex clung to her leg, whispering, "He left like Daddy did." The words were a knife, unintentional but slicing deep. Elena held him close, the cake's sweetness turning bitter on her tongue. Poverty's shadow loomed larger now. Her agency's contract ended abruptly. Bills piling like autumn leaves. Pride warred with need. She texted Damien, "We can't do this. It's too much, too fast." His reply came swift. "Please, don't shut me out again." But she did, barricading her heart. Days stretched, her shifts at a new diner endless. Greasy counters, leering patrons, the sizzle of burgers mocking her sketches tucked in her apron. Damien's calls went to voicemail, his texts unread. He paced his office, city lights blurring beyond rain-slicked glass, the board's mutiny a petty squabble compared to this true war. The second twist struck like lightning. A letter arrived at her door, yellowed envelope postmarked years ago. Damien's handwriting. Faded but fervent. "I'm coming home. Lena, wait for me." Inside, a plane ticket stub, dated the week her family fled town. Proof. He'd tried. Tears blurred the ink as she sank to the floor. Alex's drawing of a family, 3 stick figures under a lopsided sun, crinkling in her fist. Betrayal inverted. It wasn't abandonment, but cruel circumstance. Guilt gnawed. She'd judged the man who'd never stopped loving her. Across the city, Damien stared at his own ghost. A photo from their prom. Elena radiant in thrift store satin, him awkward in rented tux. The board meeting droned, but his mind replayed her airport flinch. "You're not the boy I loved," she'd said once, half joking. Now, it echoed as prophecy. Fate, ever the dramatist, forced their paths to collide again. Elena, desperate for rent, took a catering gig at a gala. Hale Enterprises' annual fundraiser, irony's bitter jest. The ballroom shimmered, chandeliers dripping light like molten gold, gowns whispering over marble floors, champagne flutes chiming toasts to fortunes built on forgotten dreams. She wove through, tray balanced, uniform starched, but soul weary. Then, across the sea of tuxedos, she saw him, Damien, center stage, delivering a speech on innovation, his voice resonant, commanding. But his eyes, haunted, scanning the crowd as if seeking salvation. Their gazes met over crystal stems and silk. The tray trembled in her hands. Glasses clinked perilously. Damien faltered mid-sentence, the microphone amplifying his pause like a held breath. "Ladies and gentlemen," he recovered, voice huskier, "true progress isn't in numbers. It's in second chances." The applause thundered, but he descended the dais like a man parched, weaving straight to her. "Elena." No Elena this time, just her name, a prayer. She set the tray down, voice a whisper amid the murmur. "You tried?" "The letter, I found it." His hand cupped her elbow, thumb tracing circles. Comfort, memory. "And you think that erases the years? The pain I caused?" "No." Tears welled, hot and unbidden. "But it explains. Damien, Alex, he's yours, our son." The revelation landed like a thunderclap. Damien's face drained of color, then flooded with wonder. Eyes widening, breath hitching. "Mine?" He staggered back a step, the gala's glamour fracturing around them. A nearby guest glanced curiously, but the world narrowed to this. Her confession, his dawning joy laced with sorrow. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice cracked, raw as exposed wire. "Because you were gone. And when you weren't, I was afraid." She stepped closer, the scent of his cologne, sandalwood and rain, pulling her under. "Afraid you'd take him. Or worse, not want him." Damien's hands framed her face, gentle as if she were spun glass. "Want him? Elena, I'd move mountains for a single day with him. With you." His forehead pressed to hers, the ballroom's din fading to a hush. "I've spent years building empires to fill this void. But you were the empire all along." She melted into him, sobs muffled against his shirt, the starched fabric softening under her tears. Around them, guests milled oblivious, but in that alcove of velvet curtains time rewound, back to creek banks and fireflies, forward to uncharted tomorrows. His lips found hers, tentative at first, then fervent, tasting of salt and redemption. The kiss was a dam breaking, years of longing cascading free, sweet and shattering. Alex's face flashed in her mind, innocent, waiting at home with a sitter. "We tell him together," she murmured against his mouth. "No more secrets." Damien nodded, pulling back just enough to search her eyes, his own shimmering. "Together, always, but climax demands its due." As they slipped from the gala, hands entwined, a shadow loomed. Damien's assistant, phone in hand, face ashen. "Sir, the board. They've frozen assets. Accusations of embezzlement. It's a setup. From your old partner." The words chilled the night air. Damien's jaw tightened, the CEO mask slipping back. "Let them come. I've faced worse storms." Elena squeezed his hand, her voice steady. "We face it. All of us." In the cab ride to her apartment, city lights streaking like shooting stars, they held each other. Two souls, battle-worn but unbroken. The revelation wasn't just parentage, it was absolution. Damien, the man who'd armored himself in success, glimpsed vulnerability's grace. Elena, the mother who'd shouldered solitude, tasted partnership's warmth. And in that fragile interlude before dawn's trials, love whispered, "You are enough." Dawn crept over the skyline, painting the penthouse in hues of rose and amber, as if the sun itself conspired for new beginnings. Damien had insisted they stay, his home, now theirs, a sanctuary from the fray. Alex stirred first, padding into the living room in dinosaur pajamas, rubbing sleep from his eyes. The toy train from his birthday chugged forgotten on the rug. But the boy's gaze locked on Damien, who sat on the sofa, tie discarded, sleeves rumpled like a man reborn. "Morning, champ," Damien said, voice thick with unshed emotion. He patted the cushion beside him. "Sleep okay?" Alex climbed up, nestling close with the ease of instinct. "Yeah, but Mommy cried last night." On the phone, Damien's heart clenched. Elena emerged from the guest room then, hair tousled, robe cinched tight, beautiful in her unguarded morning light. She paused in the doorway, watching father and son, a soft smile breaking through fatigue. "He has questions," she said simply, joining them. The sofa dipped under her weight, forming a circle of 3. Alex tilted his head, curls askew. "Mr. Damien, are you my daddy? Like in the stories?" The directness pierced. Damien swallowed, glancing at Elena. Permission in her nod. He lifted the boy onto his lap, the small body fitting like a missing piece. "I am, Alex. I was away for a long time, fighting dragons far away. But I'm here now, if you'll have me." The boy's eyes, so like his own, widened, then crinkled in delight. "Really, do you have a sword?" Laughter bubbled, Elena's hand on Damien's knee, grounding. "Better, a heart full of stories." He launched into a tale of far-off cities and brave knights, embellishing with wild gestures, Alex's giggles filling the space like music. Elena leaned into Damien's shoulder, her sigh content, the scent of fresh coffee wafting from the kitchenette. But resolution isn't without its thorns. The board's treachery unfolded that afternoon, lawyers swarming Damien's office like crows to carry on. Accusations flew, falsified accounts, insider leaks, all orchestrated by Victor Lang, his former mentor turned rival, jealousy festering into sabotage. Damien faced them in the boardroom, Elena at his side, not as arm candy but equal, her hand steady in his. "You've built this on my back," he declared, voice steel wrapped in calm. "But empires fall on lies. Audit everything." "I'll clear my name," Victor sneered from the far end, face florid. "Sentimental now, Hale? That waitress dragging you down?" Damien's grip tightened on Elena's, but she stepped forward, chin lifted. "I'm his partner. And this ends today." Her words, simple and fierce, shifted the room's tide. Whispers rippled. Allies emerged, testimonies poured. By evening, Victor was escorted out, cuffs glinting under fluorescent lights, the board unanimous in Damien's favor. Exhausted, they returned to the penthouse, now home, as dusk draped the city in velvet. Alex napped on the rug, train clutched like a talisman. Damien poured wine, the glasses clinking softly. "You saved me today," he murmured, handing her a stem, his free arm circling her waist. She sipped, eyes tracing his face, the boy she'd loved, the man she'd reclaimed. "We saved each other." The kiss that followed was slow, unhurried, bodies aligning in the kitchen's warm glow. Hands explored familiar paths, the curve of her hip, the ridge of his spine, memories rekindled, futures forged. Forgiveness wove through their days like sunlight through leaves. Elena enrolled in night classes, her sketchpad alive again with portraits of Alex's grin, Damien's quiet strength. He mentored at local shelters, trading boardroom suits for rolled sleeves, teaching boys like his younger self to dream beyond dust. Family rituals bloomed, Sunday pancakes sticky with syrup, park swings where Damien pushed higher, Elena's laughter mingling with the wind. One evening, as snow dusted the windows, their first winter together, they gathered under the old oak's memory. Damien had the tree's branch delivered, initials still etched deep. "To new carvings," he said, chisel in hand. Alex, bundled in wool, pressed his mark beside theirs. A.H. for Alexander Hale. Elena traced it, tears glistening like frost. Second chances aren't given. They're chosen. Damien pulled them close, the city humming below, a symphony to their harmony. Poverty's chains had loosened. Success's weight lightened. In each other's arms, they found redemption. Not in fortunes, but in the quiet beat of 3 hearts aligned, and in the hush of that snow-glazed night, as Alex dreamed of dragons slain, Elena whispered to Damien, "I believe in us now." He kissed her temple, voice a vow. Forever starts here, in the grand tapestry of lives, where threads of loss and longing intertwine. Some stories remind us that love is not a fleeting spark, but a hearth fire, tended through storms, glowing brightest in the dark. Elena, Damien, and Alex emerged not unscathed, but whole, a testament to hearts that refuse to yield. Sometimes, the greatest fortunes are not counted in ledgers, but in the laughter of a child, the touch of a hand once lost, and the grace to begin again. As the snow fell soft outside their window, blanketing the world in possibility, they slept entwined, proof that fate, in its wisdom, saves the best chapters for those brave enough to turn the page.